Daredevil Episode 1 Into the Ring. Now, I think, like a lot of people, I've been waiting for this show for months to come out, and I think the coolest thing about it is that, obviously, with any show that comes out on Netflix, it's just like, here's everything. So, I'm going to go straight into episode 2 after this. But this was definitely a great first episode. I know for pretty much everyone, unfortunately. This was just like a huge leap over the Daredevil film. Everyone kind of despises that as one of the bad comic book movies out there. And when I saw it when I was younger, when it first came out, it had some really cool points. There's some things that were really cool about it, like the way they showed how Daredevil could see certain things and stuff like that. That was really cool. Some of the action was pretty sweet, stuff like that. The costume was the costume, I guess. I don't know. But this was like leagues beyond it. It was really gritty and visceral. It was, it's Hell's Kitchen, so it's a tough place. And it was one of the cool things they did was because it's like, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they referenced the fact that New York was attacked during the Avengers, which I thought was pretty cool because admittedly, every time I watch like a Marvel show, it's separate to me. Like it's separate. Like even though technically it's only Agents of Shield and Daredevil, but they're fairly separate. Like they just went right into it in this episode. Though, like it's like, hey, this happened. You guys get this really cheap price because basically, hellfire rained down from the sky from aliens and stuff like that we don't understand. And it's like, well, that's how they established the fact that people recognize things. Even the main case they dealt with, sort of revolved around everything that happened during the Avengers and Loki attacking New York, and it got a lot of money coming into this company that the girl was involved in that they helped out. And I thought it was cool. It was like nice little nods to really establish some of the things where we just get to see certain characters and normal people, aside from obviously Daredevil himself. We get to see normal people talk about what happened with New York and how it was like completely ravaged by aliens and just blowing crap up. So I thought that was really cool. The action was definitely great. In the opening and ending scene where we get to see him in what's like his initial costume, I believe, from the comic books, which I thought was really cool. It actually looks really sweet too, because the normal costume actually has like eyes on it. I actually love this costume way more because it's sort of, and maybe it's just me and other people like me, but it gives it that sense of like sort of the blind samurai type of thing where it's like he can't really see, but his senses are just like so heightened, and that's exactly who Daredevil is in the comic universe. And it's just a really cool costume, and the combat, the way he fights is actually really cool too. I don't know all different styles of martial arts and things like that, but he obviously has certain techniques that he uses. The way he fights hand to hand, like using his fist, is very interesting. Like you can tell he kind of keeps his arms like this a little bit, but it's not Muay Thai where he's like using his elbow. Like he throws punches, but he kind of keeps his fist really close to him. So I don't know exactly what that style would be called or anything like that. If it is a style, I'm sure it is though. But I thought it was really unique. I don't think I've ever really seen it, not that I can recall at least. And it just really stood out. Like every punch he did, it was almost like sort of halfway out. It wasn't like all the way out where his arm was completely extended. It was just like up to here. And it was like that no matter how he did it. He would throw a punch and it would stop right here. And it was just like, that's how he would, do his punches and stuff. And I thought that was really cool. And just seeing like Matt Murdock outside of Daredevil was cool too. Seeing how he uses his senses to tell if people are lying or telling the truth to him. I thought that was a nice little way to do that. We kind of didn't get the whole vision thing and how he sees things using his senses and stuff like that, like we did from the Daredevil movie, which I'm totally fine with. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But it's cool, like the way they use it when he was listening to tell if the woman was lying to him or not. They kind of do it where they basically, it looked like they combined two scenes. And the only other reference I have to this is like Quentin Tarantino did it in Reservoir Dogs, where they do the camera in one position, like if I did it right here, and they basically just shoot two scenes at two different times. That way they can do the focus on like Matt Murdock, where it's like really in focus like on his cheek, but you can see her in focus as well, and they just kind of split it down the middle or do like a curve or whatever, so even if they move it doesn't go into the other person's scene. And I thought it was cool. It was a nice way to like show how he focuses his abilities, and they did it at the end as well, although he was just listening to everything, so it wasn't like a visually it didn't really look different. It was just him kind of looking out on the city and stuff. But it was definitely really cool. I love the way the show has a real gritty feel to it, and it has some comedic elements too. Like, the funniest thing in this episode to me was the first fight, and the guy's like eating the sandwich. That was like a 10-minute fight scene, or maybe it was like way less than that, but I was just like, oh, it looks cool. But yeah, like a 5-minute fight scene or something like that, and this guy was watching all of his buddies, all his partners get beat up. Like, one guy's pulling a gun out to try to shoot him, and he's getting knocked out. The other guy's trying to fight him and stab him and stuff. He knocks them out. And he's just like, and just sitting on the water eating a sandwich. And all he has to, like, Daredevil does is, like, throw the thing. I think he, like, threw the taser at him. And he just hit him. And that was it. It was like, what was happening with that guy? It was just so funny to me that he was just there, like, for no good reason. And it was really funny. But it was, like, a cool action scene. It was, like, a real serious moment where we see him saving these women from being sold into prostitution. And then, like, in all this action and serious drama, it's like, if you just look, like, straight back, there's just the big guy sitting on the chair just eating a sandwich while there's this huge fight scene going on in front of him. 6 people fighting, like, one dude, and he's just like, I'm gonna eat this sandwich still, and that's just what I'm gonna do. And I just thought that was so funny. Like, it was, like, they had some other funny stuff, too, obviously. Matt's partner is, like, the comedic relief of the show, and he, you know, he's kind of the outgoing lawyer, while Matt is, like, you know, the sort of centered lawyer with the superpowers and can kind of tell when people are lying, and he's really kind of honed in on just being quiet and really paying attention and doing things the right way, compared to his partner who's, like, the total opposite, who bribes his old cop friend and, you know, just says certain things, and it's just like an outgoing, funny type of character. So I like their chemistry and how they bounce off each other, I should probably say. But it was cool. I loved the aspect of the show. The sort of gritty aspect of it is pretty cool. We got, like, the introduction of the villain, in a sense. We got, like, his second in command, I would assume. And I like his character too. I always love the characters who are obviously, like, above every other villain that they're talking to, but they don't seem like they could possibly win a fight if things broke out. But no fights ever break out, because it's like, people fear this guy despite, you know, his fancy suit and the way he talks and stuff and the way he looks. They respect that because they know that if they attack him, then, you know, 10 times worse is going to happen to them. And so he comes up, like, when he first sits next to the guy and he just rattles off the number, and the guy instantly knows. And it's like, you know, here's your daughter, and then here's this killer who, if we're being honest, I think is a bit extra, but that's what we do. And my boss, who, for whatever reason, they don't say his name, he's really serious about stuff. He wants people to deal with things the way they're meant to be dealt with. They will kill people off if they get arrested. You know, the guy who wanted to protect his daughter, I thought it kind of sucked that he died at the end. I was like, oh, that really sucks, because he had a daughter, admittedly, but that's probably why they did that, because, you know, have a personal connection. This guy's actual family. He's not like the villain who's at the end of the episode, who was, you know, fighting against Daredevil and trying to just get the file back and kill the woman, and then, of course, kill Daredevil after that. So it was like, meh, he was a villain, so I don't give a crap. But the guy who actually had a family, and, you know, it kind of matters a little bit more. But it was cool. We got to see the different facets of this sort of crime organization that's being created, and we got to see the one guy who's, like, the older guy, where he was tech-based, and it's like, you know, with this happening, we should really be celebrating, because every time some superhero does something and screws up, our numbers skyrocket, so we should just be celebrating. And he was totally happy at the end, like, this is actually exactly what I wanted. And then we have, like, the older Chinese woman who has this crazy facility full of blind people, like, doing the coke. And I know why they did that, because it's actually the same sense as Daredevil, where they're using their senses to literally just feel how much coke they're actually scooping up and putting in. So I thought that was actually an interesting concept. It still made it really weird to actually see that taking place, where it's like, you know, a dozen people, like, just packing coke into these things, and they're just, you know, scooping it out and looking for it, and they're just measuring it by weight. And it was kind of cool in one sense, but at the same time, it's just not something you ever really see. So it was kind of the best of both worlds, I guess. It was cool, but it was also, like, it's very interesting, especially with it being Daredevil, where it's like, oh, the main character is like that as well. So, you know, that was something that was really interesting. We got the Russian guys who like kidnapped this boy and like just completely beat up this one guy. I'm assuming that's going to be explained in the second episode because that's where the episode ends with Daredevil kind of hearing that and he's going to go after the kid. So I'm sure we'll get an explanation on that stuff. But it was definitely cool. We also got the guy who Daredevil beat up, who had the gun. We see him getting another gun, so I have to assume he's actually going to have a fairly important role. Well, I can't say important, but he'll have at least some recurring role throughout the rest of this season. But I definitely loved this first episode. It was a really cool introduction, or second, you know, visual introduction to Daredevil and everything that he can do, and it was a great introduction for kind of the way he started, like him as Daredevil before he was really Daredevil. And I thought that was really cool. It's great that they're at least sticking somewhat to the comic books. I don't know how much because I've never read the Daredevil comics. All I know about Daredevil is from the movie and the couple of cameos he's done in like the old Spider-Man cartoon and game, and really I don't know how many cameos he's had in like anything else, admittedly. But I think this was a great start. It's a great reincarnation for the character. It's gritty, it's serious. Episodes are surprisingly an hour long, which I really didn't expect, but that's actually pretty cool because it just makes it, you know, that much more awesome content to watch. Before, you know, we obviously speed right through the whole season, and then it's like, crap, now we gotta wait, you know, another year or so for season 2. And then I believe Luke Cage is coming up after this, so, you know, if this is any indication, I can't wait to see what they do with Luke Cage, where, you know, he's actually like bulletproof, and how they're gonna kind of do that live action, and how they're gonna play around with those superpowers. So it was a great start. I think this is gonna be a huge success, and they're gonna easily be able to roll out the rest of the shows they want to do with Iron Fist. I believe Miss Marvel is the last one that they're doing. I can't remember the other 3, unfortunately, but you know, I think this is a great start. I think it's gonna go totally fine, and we're gonna get a bunch more cool shows. And eventually, once they kind of do all of this, we'll get them in the films, and it'll be really cool to see them in the movies too. But definitely a great start. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this premiere episode for the new Daredevil. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And of course, the big question is, what do you guys think of this incarnation of Daredevil? Whether you've seen the movie or you haven't seen the movie, you know the character from the comics, or you know nothing about the character. What do you think of this interpretation of Daredevil? Because obviously I love the show. I think it'll be interesting to see how they do the week to week, well, I guess I can't say week to week, but sort of episode to episode case aspect of it, because it seemed like that's how it's going to play out, where it'll be sort of, I kind of hate to do this, but kind of like Gotham, where that's sort of a cop show, but it's set in the DC universe. And this is sort of like a lawyer show a little bit, way funnier, because they're just like, they're so broke that they have an empty office with cutout piece of cardboard with their names on it. But it's going to be like that, where they work week to week on each case, or episode to episode on each case. And then obviously Matt goes out and kind of does his thing as Daredevil. But either way, I think it'll work, because it worked great in this episode. It wasn't too much focus on it. It obviously introduced the main villains anyway, because it of course was the first episode, so it worked around everything that mattered in the series. But I think it'll do great. I want to know what you guys thought about it though, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.